Konnichiwa.
It's history in the making, and we want you to be part of it.
That's a given.
We're talking about people who are changing the game.
You guys have run a tight ship here. Oh my gosh.
The rock star sitting here.
I can't even describe it.
Talking about actual business.
Two beings at the top of their professions.
Started.
Lightning quick movements.
Changing
The rock star sitting here. It's just started.
Yep. Good afternoon, my friends, and welcome back to the Real Value Podcast, the podcast about real estate appraising, lending, success, communication, life, and, well, how it all fits together. My name is Blaine Feyen. I am your host for this and every episode of the Real Value Podcast, and I'd like to welcome you back to the RVP Studios and Labs. A big shout out to all of you for helping to grow the Real Value Podcast, and of course for your awesome feedback. The show is sponsorship free, and I intend to stay that way so that you don't have to sit through boring commercials for products and services that, quite honestly, you likely already know about. And if you don't, well, there are lots of other places and podcasts to learn about them. I'm more interested in getting right into the topic at hand and the meat of the episode, so let's do just that. The name of this episode, my friends, says it all. You are in the wrong business. Actually, the title is You're in the Wrong Business. Now, when you read the title, I know what some of you were thinking. Some of you were thinking that I was going to go off on the appraisers who complain about the industry or the AMCs or the real estate agents, and I was going to say, hey, man, you're in the wrong business. Move along. But no, that's not the actual meaning of the title of today's episode. Although, as an aside, and on that particular topic, if you know anything about me and have heard any of the other episodes, I certainly would tell the forever complainers to move along. If they can't find any redeeming qualities about the appraisal business, which, by the way, is an awesome business, if they can't find any redeeming qualities about the people they work with in it, by all means, you're in the wrong business, and life is too short to spend it doing something that just brings pain and suffering and negativity. So for your own health and well-being, and of course for the health and well-being of the industry as a whole, please go. Not only does it leave more for us that remain in the business and who do love our work and do it with positivity, it may be the very thing that saves your life and helps you find your passion. So again, take a sample each morning of your attitude. If you can't find anything good, move on. Find something else. Find your passion. No, my friends, the real meaning behind the title is that I see and hear all too often appraisers discussing their perception of the issues, the challenges, the problems facing the appraisal industry, and some of the very real issues we all deal with on a daily basis. However, the big problem I see is that the vast majority of the people talking about the issues are talking about them, they're framing them, you're going to hear this word come up quite often, they're framing them as if they are appraisal problems, as if they are valuation issues, as if they were policy issues, politics issues, fee issues, AMC issues, or even, again, appraiser and appraisal-specific issues. They're not. Most of the issues that face us on a daily basis, and I'm going to interchange the word issues and challenges and situations. You'll hear that kind of meaning the same thing. But the challenges and the issues that face us as appraisers on a daily basis are issues related to how we perceive or frame those specific issues. That's what we're going to talk about in this episode. And what I mean by that is simply that how an individual, I'm not just talking about appraisers, I'm talking about human beings now, how an individual sees or perceives a problem or issue will determine how they'll attempt to solve or overcome that issue. Where every problem is a nail, for example, every solution is a hammer. And conversely, where your only tool in your tool bag is a hammer, of course, what does every problem become but a nail? Of course, there are very real challenges in the appraisal industry. I don't mean to minimize or make light of them. There are problems and challenges in almost every industry. Certainly every one that I've ever been involved with. And I've been involved with more than a few. But the ones who overcome, who bypass or thrive in spite of the issues and challenges, are the ones who learn to frame everything in terms of, and here it is, this is the secret sauce. They learn to frame everything in terms of people and marketing issues, people and marketing problems, people and marketing challenges. You see, when I say you're in the wrong business, I'm talking to everybody out there who believes he or she is in the appraisal business, or the opinion of value business, or the business of producing credible results business, or the graphing, charting, and stats business, or the market expert business, or any other definition, buzzword, or belief system out there that has you believing you're in anything other than a, here it is again, people business and a marketing business. When more appraisers grasp the idea that almost every problem they experience in their business or the industry as a whole can be framed as a people or marketing problem or challenge, they'll begin to think differently about the solutions. Remember, how you perceive a problem determines the solution you'll come up with. And the level of thinking, the level of solution and problem solving has to exceed the level that caused the problem or challenge in the first place. Again, remember when I said how an individual sees a problem determines how they'll attempt to solve it? Well, it's never been more true, and it's never been more visible in the appraisal industry. And again, that's not to say there aren't real concerns about process, policy, the future, decreasing fee scales, AMC issues, legislation issues, Dodd-Frank, changes in our business, and on the list goes. No, the problem is more of a question. And the question is, what are you doing about it? Or what are you going to do about it? What are you going to do about decreasing fees? What are you going to do about policy decisions made in Washington in the massive banking industry, massive control? What are you going to do about Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac changes? Changes that they've developed to help close more loans with fewer appraisals. What are you going to do? I know what most do, but I'm asking you because I think the listeners of this podcast are not the typical appraiser. So what are you specifically going to do? I can tell you what most will do, and that's nothing. Why? Well, quite simply because they've framed the problem incorrectly, and also because most of them have insufficient tools with which to turn an issue around. This is business Aikido, by the way. Their inability to turn an issue or a challenge around and leverage it in their favor. This is true of most problems people face in life, by the way. These are life lessons as well, not just business and industry. So one group will do nothing. They've framed the problem incorrectly. They'll do nothing. Another group will complain. They'll complain about the issues and challenges while still essentially doing nothing. And yet another group will kind of blissfully ignore the issues altogether. They'll plod along until some kind of change forces them into something or forces them out. And by the way, those things are only problems if you let them be problems. Again, this is a mindset issue. All of these things simply are. I don't mean to go too zen on you, but this is one of the greatest lessons and diamonds that I gained from my Zen training, is learning to accept things and see things clearly as they are. All of these things simply are. A-R-E. They simply are. They simply are the way of things. It's called Tao in Chinese, T-A-O, if you've ever seen that. Do in Japanese and Korean. And quite simply, the way in English. They are simply signposts to a new era and a new way of seeing and dealing with things. But if you can't frame them as people problems, people challenges, and marketing challenges, then you'll always feel somewhat helpless to creatively solve some of the perceived problems and challenges that you face. I'm sorry, but you're simply not going to change Congress. You're not going to change Fannie and Freddie. You're not going to change CoreLogic. You're not going to change policy at the Fed. You're not going to change big data. You're not going to change any of that. You're not going to change the mortgage interest the mortgage industry. You're not going to change interest rates. You're not going to change how purchase agreements are written and seller concessions, how much AMCs pay, or any of the other issues that are more or less out of your hands. You're not making Zillow and Keller Williams and Inman and Redfin go away. So if they're out of your hands, you're not going to change them. You're not going to have any appreciable impact on their business model. There's no point in even discussing them except as a way to frame a solution that works for you. And I hate to say it, my appraiser brothers and sisters, you're not going to change the fee structure in the AMC system. I mean, you might be to some degree when you turn down low fee work. I get that. I see appraisers in forums all the time say, well, if we all decided on at the same time to turn down these, listen, you don't understand mankind if that's your thinking. There are lots of people out there that for $200 as an example on a full appraisal, an appraisal that you and I would say, absolutely not. There's simply no way I'll accept that. But there are people out there who are making $10 an hour at their other job that $200, even if it takes them all day to complete as a part-time appraiser, maybe even a full-time appraiser. Maybe it's a single mom or a single dad. Maybe it's a factory worker during the day and night, and they do appraisals on the side, and this is just extra income. There's a whole bunch of them out there. And so a $200 appraisal or a $300 appraisal for them is still nice extra money. You and I as full-time appraisers look at it and go, got to be crazy. No way. But that simply means that you don't understand mankind. Those of you continuously complaining about low fees from lenders and AMCs are giving constant attention, energy, and focus to it every time you jump into a public or a private forum and you bitch about it. You're looking for some kind of support and adulation from your colleagues, and you're looking to be welcomed into this select group that only accepts certain fees from select clients. I get it. I get it, and I applaud you for having some standards. And I can definitely say that we are in the group that has a minimum threshold under which we simply will not accept an order. We don't bid for work. We stopped playing that game a long time ago. We don't play in the arena where appraisers are pitted against each other in a race to the bottom, so to speak. And we're extremely lucky in that regard, and I understand that. Or we've simply done a few things along the way that put us in that position. I like to believe that. But you know what we don't do? We never sit around and complain about it, and here's why. Anytime you give something attention, energy, and focus, you invite more of it into your life and business. Now, I'm not saying avoid it. Don't misunderstand. I've always said, and I've spoken in prior podcasts, about taking in information, study it all, research it all, but just categorize it simply as information. Don't add all kinds of emotion to it. This is high-level training, by the way. Mental, emotional, psychological training. Anytime you give something attention, energy, and focus, you invite more of it into your life and business. What you focus on determines what you experience. So if you give energy and focus and attention to all of these things that you perceive to be, and here's the key, negative. You perceive them to be negative, which means you have a negative emotion about them inside. So if you perceive them to be negative in your business and life, you are constantly activating the negative aspects in your brain, in your subconscious, and in your emotion centers. And since your personality becomes your personal reality, you're constantly bringing more of it into your life and business. This is one of the big problems in the appraisal business and the appraiser business, is that your personal reality creates your personality, and your personality dictates your personal reality. There's a lot of negative people out there. The best way to avoid this trap is to learn to reframe. It's a key word. Reframe the world around you so that everything is simply information without all the emotional baggage attached to it. You don't have to judge everything as either positive or negative. I'm not saying if you see on the news hurricanes or tsunami or mass death or some truly negative situation that you wouldn't have negative emotions about it. But understand when you see those things, it just is. How you interpret it will determine what you experience next. So in my office, we certainly discuss trends in pricing. We're not ignorant to what's gone on in the market or the industry. We follow it daily. We're just solution-based. We have solutions and strategies that we employ that allow us to negotiate when possible. I've talked about that in other episodes. I am not a believer that whatever fee the AMC sets is the set fee and the only fee. We have conversations on a weekly basis with AMCs where we talk about our fees, we talk about our fee structure, we talk about what a good appraiser is and what it isn't, and we try to dig and find out what they really want and what does their client, their end user, the lender want. Do they want the best appraisers and things like this? And we've had some great success in getting some of them to say, well, yeah, we do want the best appraisers, but we're fishing. We're fishing for what we can get for the fees, but we'll put you in this particular category, and we end up getting business from it. We don't get all the business. Sometimes the fee comes over low. Sometimes we not bid, but we will conditionally accept pending a fee increase. Sometimes we win, sometimes we don't. But as I've mentioned in other episodes, we almost always talk to the lender using that particular AMC, and we notify them of what's going on. And a lot of times the lender client has no idea that the AMC is doing that, and they end up initiating conversations up top. They push it up the chain, and they end up getting fee increases. I've been on panels, by the way, for lender clients of mine who have called me specifically and said, we want to get the best appraisers. We know we're losing out sometimes because appraisers in your area, in my area, the best appraisers are accepting the highest fee work, which means they're out on those jobs and they're turning down our jobs because of lower fee work. And they had me set up a panel whereby we dictated our own fee. They asked me, what are your fees? What will you accept to get our orders accepted first over your other type A clientele? Now, if that's not a success, if that's not a win, I don't know what is. But it's because we're solution-based. That's one of the strategies that we employ, and it's a belief system that we employ on a daily basis so that we don't just look at a low-fee order or a bid order and go, those grumble. Some of them we just let go. We just don't even address. If it doesn't meet our criteria, we turn it down. It's done. It's over with. We've moved on. We don't jump into forums. We don't show off our nasty emails to those people, our middle fingers to the AMC. We don't tell them how insulting it is and how insulted I am that you're doing this to our industry and you're ruining our profession. No. It doesn't. You're not changing anything. You're just working yourself up. You're showing your personality, and your personality becomes your personal reality, which means you're attracting and inviting more of that in. We don't give it even 1 ounce of energy. It's one of the value adds I believe I have with my trainees, my appraisers, is I can add that what we'll call social emotional intelligence. Don't give it any energy. Don't discuss it. Don't talk about it in a negative way. If you're going to discuss it, it's because you're discussing it to come up with a strategy. We don't give it 1 ounce of energy, thought, or discussion because we've moved immediately back into working our plan, working our numbers, working our goals, and our marketing. And of course, as I've mentioned, I'll talk in another episode about our goal setting, our business planning, and our marketing planning process. But for now, people problems and marketing problems. People challenges, marketing problems. Learn to reframe everything in terms of it's not an industry problem. It's a people problem and it's a marketing problem. Those are challenges we can deal with. And those are challenges we can address. We can always address people challenges. When we have issues with realtors in our market, we don't say, that damn industry, the real estate industry is all corrupt. No, I can't change that. I can't change the whole industry. But I can address it as a people and a marketing problem. Marketing problem meaning I can get out in front of it. I can talk, I can communicate with the realtors, individual realtors, a group of realtors. I can educate when I look at it as a people challenge and a marketing challenge, because then I can develop a plan to overcome it and change it one person at a time. I'm not going to take on the whole real estate industry, so there's no point in me saying the whole industry is corrupt. All realtors are liars. All of them are cheats. No, they're not. I know many of them. They're good, honest people looking to change lives. And the medium through which they have available to them is by putting happy buyers and sellers together and putting people into real estate. What would you have them do? Have all the houses be vacant? Have everybody renting? No. The best thing for any block, any neighborhood, any area, any city, any town, any village, every state is to have happy buyers and sellers being put together and to have good people in homes. Makes an area stronger, right? So I will get to in other episodes our business planning. But for now, people problems, marketing problems. When we see low fees, we think people and marketing problem, challenge. I should start using challenge instead of problem. When we see AMCs with less than acceptable turn times, when we see bid emails, when we see reverse auctions on fees to the lowest bidder, we simply move on. No negative energy spent bitching about it. And here's the magic that happens, folks. When you can start to behave like this, when you can turn down that kind of work because it simply doesn't fit your goals, it doesn't fit your plans, it doesn't fit your business model, and you have no negative emotion around it, or if you do have some initial negative emotion, you can at least quickly get back to a positive state after being negative about it. That's part of the training and the practice. You open the path for new and better business to come in. It has never failed me, by the way, in my businesses, in all of the years since learning how to train my conscious and my subconscious mind in this matter. It's never failed. The business may not come in on that day, although sometimes it does. But it definitely comes in. And when you start to train yourself this way, you stop seeing things as problems outside of you and problems that can't be overcome. You start to frame things in terms of people and marketing. Of course, part of the people and marketing challenge, as I just mentioned, are the appraisers themselves. And of course, part of the people and marketing challenge is the AMC, the lending system, having conflicting goals, or so they think. Unfortunately, for appraisers, and some of our fees are plans or lack of a plan, which is a big one that we encounter. No plan whatsoever, no business planning, no market plan. But sometimes the conflict and the problem with appraisers is that their plans conflict, in some cases, with the AMC and the lender. Which one's going to win in the end? Well, nobody knows. I can take a guess. But what I do know is that you'll never solve that particular problem until you're able to frame it in terms of what? People and marketing. And that may simply mean saying, hey, these people simply don't see the value in the work that I do. I need to find more people who do. I need to hire myself. That's what we said years ago. How can we hire ourselves? And that helped us develop our marketing plan. So we say, hey, these people don't see the work, the value in the work that I do. I get it. I can't force my value down their throat. So I need to find more people who do see my value And then I need to market to them in a way. And by the way, when I say market, a marketing problem, I'm not talking about sending out flyers and postcards in the mail, although that can be part of your marketing strategy. No, when I say a marketing problem, I'm talking about how you get your message, your brand, your education out to the market. So just to clarify, when we are confronted with low fees or bids or things like this, we don't spend any time being negative about it. We simply say, we understand, hey, these people don't get it. It's okay. We have options. I talked in a prior podcast about the spectrum of options. I think I used the analogy of like a ruler. On one side of the ruler are just bad options. Don't do it. One of those bad options is jumping into an appraiser-based forum and bitching about it, getting everybody else riled up and attracting all the other negativity to you. No, it's a bad solution. Somewhere in the middle of the ruler, or the solutions are getting better, and then somewhere on the other side of the ruler, the spectrum of good options, is maybe calling the AMC and finding out what their motivation is, calling the lender, finding out, do they know that this is what the AMC... You can get to the bottom of some of it. Some of it you'll just never be able to deal with, and you'll learn who those are, and you'll fire them. We talked about that in a prior episode. And when you fire them, you essentially give yourself a raise. You may be out that business for a while, but you open the door to attracting new and better business if your mindset is proper. So the proper way to frame some of these scenarios is simply to say, hey, I get it. They don't see our value. That's partly I take responsibility for that in my business. I'm suggesting you do as well. If somebody doesn't see your value, that's partially your responsibility. Some you will never get to see your value. But accepting that you haven't done the greatest job, accepting that on the whole, the industry has not done a great job of marketing to the public, marketing to realtors, marketing to lenders, what our real value is. Many of them see us as a necessary evil. And some of the appraisers out there are a necessary evil. They're just bad personalities. And realtors and lenders have been dealing with them for decades, so no wonder they label them a necessary evil. They don't like dealing with them. They're not good communicators, many of them. The new generation, by the way, may very well have those skills. But our job then is to find more clients, find more people who do see our value, or at least are open to hearing what kind of value we bring. This, of course, puts some responsibility on you to develop an elevator speech, to develop a talk, to develop a 1 hour, a 2 hour, a 3 hour training course, workshop, or boot camp. Get people in it. I can tell you from doing it for 15 years, plus or minus, teaching I'm talking about, the realtors eat this stuff up. They're looking to be educated, and they want to know what the mystery is and what the differences are between what they think we do and what we actually do. You have to, it's your responsibility to frame it in a way that makes your brain and your heart and your body and everything get in alignment and understand. There's always going to be a group of people who don't see your value. That's partially your problem, partially your responsibility, but then you focus on the ones that you can have an effect on, and you go out and you find clientele that will be open to understanding what you add to the market. And then, of course, you have to market to them in a way that they're able to see your value and that you're then able to add value to. It's a people and a marketing challenge. It's not a valuation. It's not an appraisal challenge. It's not an industry challenge. I mean, in a sense, it's a challenge in our industry that more appraisers don't get this. So I'm hoping that you do. You're the elite. As it stands, most appraisers are simply seen as a commodity. We talked about that, right? I explained in another episode what commoditization is and how there's always three forces that are trying to commoditize you and your business. One of them being the client themselves, the customer, the market, the industry. Most appraisers and appraisals today are seen as a commodity, and so the lowest price tends to win. This is our problem. This is our responsibility and our challenge. we've done a poor job. It simply is the way things are. Bitch about it, complain about it, be upset, stomp your feet, roll around. But it simply is the way things are for some subset of our clientele. Now, if you're lucky enough to not have to deal with them, it's probably because you see solutions instead of problems. Or where you see a problem and a challenge, you're able to come up with a solution. I'm sure every appraiser who's been doing this for 15 years or more can tell you that fees, AVMs, lowballers, value pushers, undercutters, part-timers, and form fillers have always been an issue. They're always there. And of course, with the advent of the internet and the availability and easy access of information and news, it's simply growing. And because of something that's called the recency heuristic, we see more of it. We have more access to it on the internet. So we hear about it more, we see it more. Add in, of course, the birth of AMCs in 2008, 2009. You have a new twist to the business model. It's not going away. It's just evolving and changing. And my point is simply that business is fluid. Always has been, always will be. Every business I've started, developed, grown, and sold, been part of, or worked in has had its challenges, its competitors, and those seeking to commoditize the product in the process. Those are called market forces. And again, we talked about the commoditization process in a previous episode. It's simply business, my friends. Get used to it, accept it, work with it, and move forward. Now, I know there are areas of the country where the market may be saturated with appraisers, more so than my market. There may be lots of low-fee appraisers in competition in your area. So I don't mean to disregard that scenario. I know. I'll hear it in the emails. You just don't understand our market, Blaine. Yeah, I get it. The point I'm trying to get you to, however, is the point at which you realize things are not going to just magically change for you. You can wait around and hope that the market crashes, that it cleanses the market of the low-fee appraisers and the low-end lenders. That's happened before. I've been through it. And of course, the good appraisers rise to the top again. But how long are you going to wait? How long are you going to wait for things to go back to 1995? Or 2005? Or 2015, for that matter? What are you going to do? Are you going to jump into a forum and complain about it? They're not going to change it for you. All the other appraisers in there who are going, yeah, that's right, man. I hate all those realtors and AMCs and lowballers. F them. They're not paying your bills. They're not bringing you new business. You can't wait around. What are you going to do? I'll tell you what you need to do. It's up to you whether or not you take my advice and do it. You're going to write down what your annual income goal is. You're going to divide that number by your average appraisal fee. I would suggest writing it somewhat high, positive thinking. You're going to then divide that number by 12, which is the number of appraisals you need to do in a month to meet that goal. And then you're going to divide that number by 22, which is the average number of days, working days there are in a month. Don't divide by 30 because that would mean you have to work every day of the month. Now, for those of you who are like me, who've been doing this for many years, I would actually suggest ramping up your goal setting so that you write down your annual income goal. Let's say it's $300,000 gross. You write that down and then you divide by 10 because you want to take 2 months off. Or you divide by 11 because you want to take 30 days off. But whatever it is, change it so that you're not dividing by 12. Take a month or 2 off. Now you've figured out how many appraisals you need to do at that average fee in 10 months. And then you divide by 22, which is the average number of days there, working days, business days there are in a month. And then you have your number. Now, for some of you, you go through this and you'd be like, I can never do that. I'm doing 2 a day now, and I would have to do 5 a day, and how do I do? No, the point isn't necessarily the how yet. With goal setting and business planning and 2-timesing, 5-timesing, 10xing your business, the idea is not to come up with the how right away. The how will make itself known once you can think big enough to do it. No, the how comes. Don't worry about the how yet. It's called self-editing. Don't self-edit. Just write down your goals, however audacious they may be. So you write down your goal for $300,000, you're only making $65,000 now, you see there's too big of a gap, fine. But what if after doing it at the end of that year, you end up at 150? And you go, well, I didn't reach my goal. No, but look what happened. You went from 65 to 150. Awesome. Next year's goal is 400. And who cares if you don't hit it again, but you end up at 220? That's what happens with goal setting. It's magic. Been doing it for years, can confirm it, can guarantee it. And again, I'm gonna do episodes about goal setting and business planning. I just gave you goal setting 101 on a personal level. We actually have a sheet, a worksheet. If I had one here, I would pull it out and show it to you on the YouTube channel, on the video, but I'll show it in another episode. That's just got a bunch of different little squares with arrows, and then we put our main goal, and then we just basically work backwards. What's the average fee? And again, the reason I said increase your average fee is because that's also setting an intention. If your average fee is $400, for example, on your worksheet, put average fee $450. Because what you'll see happening then, the magic that happens with goal setting is that your average fee will start to increase. Oh, I got $410 on this one. I got $425. Oh, that one's $475. And that's what averages are made of, right? You'll see your average creep up. It's all about putting that intention out. So I suggest doing that particular exercise, and I suggest you track it and measure it each month. And you can alter it. Goal setting is living, breathing, fluid process as well, just like business, because life is too. And I suggest that anytime you feel or sense or hear or see negativity, something that inside of you read an article about the state of the industry. Oh, worst thing you can do. Turn off Fox, turn off CNN, turn off MSNBC, turn off all the news. If you got it going in the background, at our last office, we had a big open lounge area for clients to come in. We had flat screen TV on the wall and a beer and wine cooler and coffee service and the whole 9 yards. And we had news going 24/7 in the background. And I could always hear it from my office. And although sometimes I wasn't consciously listening, I realized that it was going in. It was going into my subconscious. And there were days where I would leave just feeling negative. It was because the news cycle was running all the time in the background. We changed that. So for now, anytime you see, hear, or feel that negative emotion welling up inside of you, you see something, some news story, and you go, oh, state of the industry, oh, it sucks, oh, business is going down. Grab your sheet and start goal setting. Do just that one thing whenever you feel like negativity is all around you. Focus on those numbers. Stare at them. Put them on your mirror. Get a dry erase marker and write them on your mirror in your bathroom. Put them on your windshield in your car, not in front of where you drive and see. But have some mechanism with which you can draw yourself out of negativity to positivity. Negative energy is a lower vibration. Positive energy is a higher vibration. You need to get yourself to higher vibration all the time. Focus on your numbers. Set your goal high. Look at them every single day. It may not start to happen right away. That's not the way this works, although sometimes it does. But by just doing that little exercise, you've activated something wonderful, amazing, and magical. All right, people in marketing issues. Another one of the people in marketing challenges I just mentioned with regards to appraisers and how they see themselves in their place in the market is simply that most appraisers think in terms of time and not value. And I'll explain. I've talked in previous episodes about how appraisers can start to add more value to the process and start thinking in terms of value and not product. Oh, my appraisal is the product in my service. No, it's not. And what I mean by appraisers thinking in terms of time and not value is that the vast majority of appraisers frame their experience, their time in the market or their time in their business, the number of appraisals they've completed over 10, 15, or 20 years, their fees, and also how long appraisers have been paid a certain dollar amount for an appraisal. And I'm sorry, my friends, but the only people who think that way are factory workers, people who work for others, people who make an hourly wage, and prisoners. The only people who think they're entitled to something based on their years on the job without any growth whatsoever are people who work for other people, people who work in factories, and prisoners. And I'm not knocking any of those groups. I'm just saying that the type of thinking that is prevalent in those specific industries and prisons is one based on time. I see this argument being passed around all the time and reinforced by appraisers who say, an appraisal cost $300 back in 1975. It was $375 in 2005, and now we're paid $395 in 2018. What a distorted understanding of the market. You think because you are still around that you should be paid more. You think because the cost of living has gone up, so should appraisals. And in many cases they have. But it's a very distorted understanding of the market. A flat screen TV was $2,000 in 1999. And you can pick up one that's 3 times the size and the resolution for $199 now. Digital cameras were $1,500 in 1995. And you can pick one up with 10 times the megapixels now for $100 or so. This mentality that appraisers are somehow deserving of a pay raise simply for still being around 30 years later doing essentially the same thing is an employee mentality. And there's no place for it in our industry. The market is speaking loud and clear. Don't get me wrong. Don't take this out of context or take my words out of context. I'd love for our fees to continue rising without question. Everything went up in my market $75 to $100 when they added the 1004 MC. We heard a lot of grumbling, and I said, good. It won't take me that long to develop this MC form. I'll take the additional money. Everything went up in fees when they changed the FHA requirements, where we have to test appliances and things like that. And a bunch of FHA appraisers dropped out in my market. I'm not doing it anymore. Too much liability. They're asking way too much. I get it. I didn't like it either. I thought it's ridiculous. Too much changing the scope of work and too much liability on our shoulders. We overcame almost all of that with commentary, disclaimers, and disclosures. And so now I have to turn on a stove and get a picture of it, which I know a lot of you don't do. We do. Big deal. We were already inspecting attics. Big deal. Add $100 onto my appraisal, I'll take it. And now I'm one of many, so many fewer FHA appraisals in our market, appraisers. Good. Attitude and mindset. This mentality that appraisers should be getting a pay raise simply for hanging around is absolutely ridiculous. I'll take the increases if they're going to give them to us. But where they are not paying that, I'm not going to sit around and bitch about it. My business today is far more efficient than it was in 2001. That's just simply a reality. The technology is vastly advanced from 2001, and it allows me to be a better appraiser in exponentially less time than it took me in 2001. I think I mentioned in a previous show how when I first came into the business, they were literally glue sticking Kodak 3x5 photos onto the appraisals. Shortly after that, digital cameras were coming out. But we were still hand delivering printed appraisals in manila envelopes to our lender clients. We'd throw a stack into our car, and when we went out on appraisal inspection site visits, we'd then stop at all the lenders and drop off their appraisals twice a week. It was a great way to keep in touch with and meet new loan officers. That, of course, has gone away and the distance has grown between us and our clientele. But that was an inefficiency in the market. That's gone today. I can touch more people and more clients using technology advances than I could in 2001. And I can provide more value for my clients via video, via audio, things I can add into the reports at the touch of a button. I can do a regression analysis with a few mouse clicks. I can get better market data with a few mouse clicks, better MLS data, and a whole host of other business innovations that allow us to operate our offices more efficiently, remotely if we want, from the cloud if we want, and on the innovations go. I can produce more reports in less time, considerably less time, with more support, more market data than I certainly could in 2001. It would have taken me infinitely longer to get all of that data into my reports. I have much quicker access to far more data than I had in 2001. Does a client not know this? Of course they do. They're utilizing technology to make things easier as well. It's been one of the great points of leverage in my business since starting it. My ability to optimize and create efficiencies in our office, in data gathering, in report production, in mobile inspection tools or with mobile inspection tools, invoicing innovations, collection innovations, accounting, and a host of other modernizations that we've experienced means I can produce more in less time with no loss in quality, by the way. I think my reports today are higher quality than they were in 2001 or even 2005 or 2015 for that matter, because our data, our processes, our increased education, thanks to technology, by the way, internet courses, our increased experience in the market, and all of the innovations that have entered our world have made us better appraisers that can produce more in less time with less overhead. Let that sink in. Again, do I want to take less money? No, and we aren't. Certainly not. Fortunately, now in 2018, I can say we don't take less money. We're making more. We charge more money. But do we expect a raise simply because it's 2018 and I've been doing this since 2001? Absolutely not. It's about value and building equity. Anytime people ask for increases in compensation without a commensurate increase in value add or offering, they are exhibiting what I consider to be the worst form of greed known to man. They want something for nothing, and they're asking for an unfair exchange in the market. Which, by the way, is the very thing that we are in business to speak on, is it not? When it comes to a piece of real estate, we speak on whether or not the buyer is paying more for that piece of real estate than what the market says it's worth. And the same thing goes on with our fees. The market always speaks. Are we getting enough value add for what we're paying for that particular product or service? And of course, time on the job matters. I know. Probably like you, as I just mentioned, I've grown since those first few years in appraising. In fact, I know I'm getting better every year as I study, I read, I go to classes, I have more experience in the market. I learn from the underwriters, I learn from revision requests, I learn from all of you and the sharing that so thankfully can occur thanks to technology, forums and groups. What I don't expect is I don't expect a fee increase, or in other words, a pay increase, simply because I've been an appraiser for 18 years. And I won't expect a pay increase when I've been in it for 25 years. I will expect to create efficiencies. I would certainly hope the fees go up. I'm going to keep increasing my fees, and then I'm going to test the market. Where does it fit? If I'm adding more value, commensurate with the fee I'm charging, I will request it. But I don't expect it just because I've hung around for 18 or 20 or 25 years. All that means to the market is that I've been doing the same thing as I did in year one. I've just repeated it 18 times. That's what they think. Nobody in the market really goes, oh, he's got 18 years experience. Oh, he must be 18 times better than the average. No, they assume that you know what you're doing in years 3, 4, and 5. And so 18 years later, you're pretty much doing the same thing. For many appraisers, they bring 1 to 3 years experience repeated over a 10, 20, or 30 year span of time. They're not bringing 20 or 30 years of experience to the table. They're bringing 1 to 3 years of experience repeated over 20 years. And just like a homeowner expects a home to have a roof or a furnace or windows, realtors trying to market those items as big selling points of a home would be futile, would it not? Oh, this house has a roof. Yeah, so what? We expect a roof. Well, this appraiser's been appraising for 20 years. Well, great. We expect that he was good in years 5, 10, and 20. So that means when we're comparing him to an appraiser that's only been appraising for 5 years, are we going to get 15 years difference worth of value in the appraisal? Probably not. So we're going to pay 15 times more? Absolutely not. Demanding that the market pay you more because you've been doing the same thing for 20 years is a losing battle, especially if you're not that good at marketing your experience or your value add to your clients and your potential clients. If you're not that good at it, well, then you're just screaming into the wind. You're saying, I need a pay raise, and they're going, what for? We know nothing about you. Most of the market doesn't give a damn how many years you've been appraising. We all have clients who appreciate our experience, some more than others. But they appreciate the experience and the value that our years in the business allow us to add when it comes to crafting reports that don't need revisions, for example, or the conversations we may have to have with realtors when things aren't coming in as expected, for example. Some of you I know don't talk with realtors. I talk to them all the time. Our years on the job needs to translate to something that is a real benefit for our clients. And it needs to translate to a benefit to them before you should ever expect them to pay you more for what they perceive to be the same thing as the guy down the street. That's commoditization. And until they know how and why you're different, they'll never even consider it. They may even once they know it, they may not pay you more. But at least once they know it, they'll consider paying you more. And when they know how much better you are and the value you add to their business, they're more likely to refer you. They're more likely to stay, and pay more. And I've talked about that in previous episodes, so I won't go into it deeply in this one. If your clients don't know what it is you really do and why your 20 years in the business matters, you're failing. That's you. That's on you. That's not their responsibility. It's not their obligation to put you on a pedestal and give you more money. It just simply isn't. The market doesn't work that way. Now, I get cost of living increases in expenses associated with our business, and just a natural desire to see things increase over time. But that's not how the market works when it doesn't perceive value. This is not a fee problem. This is a people and a marketing challenge. We're not in the appraisal business. That's just the medium through which we touch our clients and our market. We are always in the people business, and almost every issue comes down to a people issue and how the questions are perceived, and then how the answers are framed or marketed to our clients and to the general public. And until we, as an industry, figure out how to truly add more value to the process than what the market perceives our value is, the market will continue to eat away at our fees. They'll continue to find new and innovative ways to remove us from the process. It happens every day. And they'll find new and cheaper ways to get done what they perceive to be a low value, albeit necessary, function of the loan process. My encouragement then is simply to look at things with fresh eyes. Step outside of our industry for a little bit. And then look in at what we do and how we do it from their perspective. Look at what they think we do and don't do, and try to consider ways that appraisers can add more value. Look at ways that appraisers can solve more problems. Look at ways that we can touch more people in the process and then market those solutions to the public. Realtors are doing it. They're doing it with their apps. They're doing it with their programs. Zillow's doing it. We may not agree with how they're doing it, but they're finding a way to touch their market. They're finding a way to get in front of their clients and potential clients and customers. But until then, the virtual Facebook water coolers and forums will grow with more and more appraisers yelling into a big black hole of people who simply can't help them. We're not in the appraisal business. We're in the people business. And we're in the marketing business. Every one of you is a brand. Every one of you is a broadcaster. Every one of you is a content creator, a marketer. And you either add value in the process or you're simply a line item cost that gets passed on to the borrower. Fortunately, my friends, you get to decide which one you are in your market. There's still time. I know this to be a fact because we do it. There's lots of hope for those of you that can see things a little bit differently, can perceive things with fresh eyes differently than the rest of the industry, and you can reframe solutions. Those of you who have come from different industries like I have, I encourage you to draw from your experience outside of the appraisal industry and see how other businesses add value for their clients. Look at the hotel industry. I worked in the hotel industry for several years when I lived in Chicago, living in the Aikido dojo in the Zen monastery. You want to talk about a client service industry? It's one of the absolute best. I worked for a 5-star hotel. Client and customer service, well, they call it guest service, was the absolute ultimate priority. Every single person, from the maid and dishwasher to the valet parker, bellman, concierge, front desk, if you were walking around the hotel, on your shift or off your shift, and you ran into a guest that needed a problem solved, you had up to $2,500 to solve their problem on the spot. Was never a situation where management said to you, call us first, we need approval on this. And by the way, $2,500 back in 1991 to 94 was a lot of money and could solve a lot of problems. That meant that me, as a bellhop, if I ran into a guest who, say, needed to get somewhere quick, like the airport, I could immediately get on my radio and say, pull the limousine around to the front. Mr. and Mrs. Johnson are late for their flight. We need to get them out of here ASAP. And nobody asked a question or batted an eye. The maid could do the same thing, which is why guests paid the fees they paid to stay in that hotel and stay in those rooms. Guest service. Did it cost that hotel? Absolutely. But they were the highest paid in the industry. One of the highest paid in the industry, because it was all about guest service. And they empowered every single employee all the way down from the lowest paid up to the president and CEO. Every single person had the power of the CEO. Every person had the power of the upper level management to make sure that the guest had the ultimate experience. All of that may not apply to the appraisal industry, and I'm not suggesting that it does. I'm simply suggesting to look outside of our industry at other industries and how they take care of their clients, their customers, and their guests. And then you sift through and you pick and you go, well, this doesn't apply because nobody stays at my office, so it's not an Airbnb, so I can't apply what the hotel industry. No, that's not what I'm suggesting. But I am suggesting you adopt the mindset that the high-end hotel industry does, which is guest service trumps everything. And then the clientele and the fees and the rates and the endorsements and the referrals and every one of their properties around the world is always filled, almost always at capacity because of their reputation. You have to learn to see things a little differently, my friends. Look outside the industry, look at other businesses, and look how they add value for their clients, customers, and colleagues. If you can't do this, you're in the wrong business. Thank you for spending your most valuable currency with me, my friends. That is your time. I hope you've been able to add a little return for the time spent, or will at least add some return over time for that investment. I really appreciate it. Thanks again for listening to the Real Value Podcast, and we will talk again next week.